Hi guys, so this is Khurram Kalimi and we are on the show Grey Matters with my co-host Adnan Shekhani. Welcome. And today we have an interesting guest called Danielle Moore Jarnot. And she's here with us today and she's the founder of Moore Consulting, and we are trying to talk to her about what she has been doing in her past life. What is she doing now and what are the future plans? So welcome on the show.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with you both.
Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you.
So tell me about yourself, Danielle. What's happening? What are the career pivots you have done in the past? I've heard that there are a lot of interesting stuff happening in the past, so would like to listen from you.
I have a very non-traditional career trajectory. I moved to New York to dance, so naturally you go into finance after that, right?
Yeah, okay.
But
I didn't know that was a thing.
So you continued making moves, yeah.
I did. There you go. But I think that the things that I took with me from my background in dance and athletics was perseverance, was adaptability, and looking back on that now, it is definitely something that I bring into my sales consulting now.
Wow, that's amazing. So can you go in more detail and what were the reasons why you were moving those changes and shifts? People are like always trying to understand why this pivot or change happened.
Absolutely. So I started out on a hedge fund desk, doing database work, administrative work, and got pulled into the trading side, based on the information that I knew about the products that we were trading. So I was a buy-side trader in investment management for over 10 years. I started out at a hedge fund. I made my way to the GIC, which is the government of Singapore's sovereign wealth fund. And
Wow.
So that was my first exposure to really to being exposed to a lot of people pitching things to me, a lot of salespeople coming into the office, and I really got a chance to compare and contrast what good looks like, what they thought a good sales pitch looked like, and what really resonated with me as a decision maker.
Wow.
I made the crazy decision back in 2015 to leave the buy side and go into the broker-dealer side of the business. So I was selling algorithmic trading strategies, liquidity strategies, and I knew nothing about sales.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing.
Wow.
But I had been the client. I had sat in their seat, and I'd been working in the industry for a long time. So I just went in and just instinctively went in to go and see, like, hey, I know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Tell me about what you're trying to solve, and let's see if we can find a solution for that.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that ended up being the magic, because over time in my career since then, I came to realize that should be our focus all along. Getting to know the client, finding what is the problem, what is the solution that will solve that problem, and kind of what kind of results can the client get from that.
So Danielle, please tell about your international experience. I know that you have worked with London Stock Exchange, you have worked with Singapore government. So tell me what kind of different experiences and how many countries and how many cities you have touched in your career.
Sure. So my last I spent some time at BCG, consulting into financial services. So we benchmarked the industry and their tech, ops, and market data stacks. So I really got a chance to. The thing that I love about my experience is that I have a 360 view of the industry itself. So when I'm speaking with clients, I'm able to bring that into that. But the London Stock Exchange brought me in a really interesting role that was a departure from my previous roles. They brought me in to build a framework for sales strategy and sales enablement for two of their business lines in data and analytics. And the framework that we were able to build, we really were thinking of how do we make the sales motion more repeatable and scalable. And so after having built that for their benchmark and index business, and then for their sustainable finance and investment data and analytics business line, leaving there, that's where kind of everything came together for me. that's when I realized that that my unique experience, having been the client, sold to the client, and then benchmarking the industry, really informed the way that I put together that framework. And now I'm out here doing this for founders and for sales organizations to help them be more repeatable and scalable.
So I have two questions. Firstly, I mean, you were on the buying side, correct? And people were coming on selling side. And a huge part of anything that is being sold is how it looks as a brand,
Yes.
how it's presented.
Very true.
So that's my first question. How would you create branding in something which are mostly just numbers and percentages? And my second question, I'll ask once you answer that.
Absolutely. Personal branding is so important. Whether it's your personal brand within an organization, within a sales team, within and out in the industry. For me, I think it's really about authenticity, and really focusing on what is your niche. What do you focus on? For me, my personal branding is I've been a senior leader in an industry, and have and all of my varied experience really informs being able to think about not just how to help my clients, but how to help my clients' clients.
Yeah.
I mean, because it really needs to come from from a place of what problems are we trying to solve? Well, what problems are my clients trying to solve for their clients?
Right.
What and helping them to really bring that messaging out. And I think that when you approach branding in that respect, and I mean, for me, my clients don't hire me for for the number of hours that I put in. They hire me for the outcomes that they'll get.
Right. So which brand in the financial world would you, sort of in your opinion, would say that it's perfectly branded? The narrative matches what they do.
That is a great question. If I had to only pick one brand, I think Goldman Sachs does a great job of branding. I think, and I've seen that, having been their client, they've been my client, and just seeing, they're really great at pulling together the culture. And anytime someone walks out into the world, and they're from Goldman, you know that you'll get a certain level of service.
I understand. So, I mean, there are a lot of people who
Can I ask some question from you, connected to this one?
Sure. Go for it.
So this reminds me of your experience of creating branding for pharma, which is usually very boring, but you did an amazing job in your past career. And where did you? So same for finance, that there's very limited room to play, a lot of regulation problems and a lot of norms and nuances, and it's a big field. It's a very big stable field globally. So very less room for experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, so the way what I've done in the past is very different than what she's done, because she's B2B. I've been working for banks and fintechs, and it's primarily been B2C, but the only B2B client that I've worked with where we draw a similarity is for the Pakistan Stock Exchange.
Oh, okay.
So I worked on their positioning, right? And just something to add to our audience's knowledge base, and thank you for the question because it sort of connects, and that was initially what my thought was, that how the word for Goldman Sachs come across, what do they call, right? So Pakistan Stock Exchange, we worked on their branding, and we worked on a positioning for them, which we change every year, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 years back when we worked on a positioning, it was a very tough year. Markets were quite bad. There was an attack on the stock exchange, and there was economy was really erratic. At
Inflation and all that
Inflation
stuff.
and all of that, yeah. I mean, just like it happens in any part of the world. So the positioning that we came up with was just 2 words: Pakistan Stock Exchange, always on. It did not even stop for a single day during COVID.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
that's the kind of thing, and I believe Goldman Sachs carries that weight. When they walk into a room, you know that it's Goldman Sachs. And that's my second question before we go back to the sales part, is that how has Moore Consulting grown as a brand?
So we're still growing. We are just shy of the 1 year mark.
Excellent.
Really enjoying the journey. But if I had to crystallize, what brand we're putting out there, it's clarity and it's expertise.
Clarity and expertise, two things which also go for you as a human, I believe.
Always.
I try.
So, tell me, Danielle, what is Moore Consulting? What is happening, and why it is so important and close to you?
So I think we've all been exposed to a bad sales pitch, right? Whether it's sitting in a meeting across from someone who is just talking about benefits and features. We've all gotten that cold email where they, I love the ones that, that come to me and tell me that they've been to my website, it's terrible, and that they are the only people who can help me. I rather like my website. Just saying, the designer did a wonderful job. But I would like to contribute to improving outcomes for sales teams. It brings me such joy, particularly working with founders, with startup founders. I've had a chance to work with a couple of founders in the last year, and it's like a quick fix for me because they usually will lead with their product and all about them. I, me. And if we can just switch the narrative, what is the first thing that you do in any interaction? I tell them about this. I'm like, no, you say, hi, how are you? Be human.
The human
number
element.
one.
Yeah.
Be human, number one. Number two, what do they care about? You have a precious few seconds to capture someone's attention. What are you going to do with that? There's a really great statistic that I use all the time. So apparently back at the beginning of the digital age, in the early aughts, Microsoft conducted a study, and I don't know exactly how they got there, but they found that humans have a 12-second attention span.
Which is dropping every year now.
Which is dropping, and they reran it in 2022, and we're down to 8.25 seconds.
Oh God. That's why YouTube probably has the 3-second rule.
Yeah, the small TikToks.
Yeah.
Separately, apparently a goldfish, Lord knows how they measured this, has an attention span of 9 seconds. We are now losing to goldfish. So what do you do with that? You need to make sure that your messaging is customer centric, that it's all about the buyer, and helping founders in particular to change their narrative and go from being product led to being customer-led in everything, in their interactions. It's just magical to watch. My latest founder was spamming everyone with emails. He sent out 3,000 emails. Nothing came of it. And in the weeks that I worked with him, over 4 weeks, he sent out fewer emails,
but more effective.
And landed 50% hit rate to get meetings.
So what was the change that you did?
So the change was in his first interaction with them. I told him, I said, how many emails have you gotten from a stranger telling you all the wonderful things about them? How many times have you said, I have to have that, and you've just bought? You've never done that. The first email, sell the meeting. Sell the value of spending time with you. What will they get? What kind of insights can you provide for them?
So value.
The salespeople who are successful, number one, they have a process. They have a process that they follow, so that sales is an inevitability. Closing deals is inevitable if they have a process to follow, and they need to be data driven as well as customer centric. I don't think that it works with just one or the other.
Exactly. So, and with that, experiential marketing. So we'll come to that as well. So this guy coined this term way long back, most probably 20 years back.
No, it was 2006.
2006, almost 18 years back. Experiential marketing, which is a thing now.
Back in Pakistan.
Definitely.
But I would want to go back to what you were saying, what's important when you outreach and when you start speaking to your customers. You said first you have to lock in the meeting. and you give value for why they should be taking the meeting.
My most valuable asset is my time. So if I'm going to give someone this incredibly valuable, asset that I can never get back, I want it to be valuable. And so I approach sales in that way and try to help my clients do the same. So that every interaction, make sure that there are insights that are valuable to them. Even if they don't end up working with you, you need to make sure that that the time that you spend together feels valuable and what is valuable to them.
And they would remember you, and they may one day be a customer.
Right.
And what's the second thing?
Well, I have the way that my business is structured, and either of those questions, I would probably answer it this way. The way More Consulting is structured is we have 3 distinct business lines. We have the founders cohort, where we work with startup founders, where founders are put into a cohort, and we work with them on their ideal client profiles, their messaging, and setting up a scalable foundation for them to grow their sales organization. We also work with sales teams, either a quick ROI workshop to get them back on track, or for small to mid-size businesses where they've seen exponential growth. They probably have the right people, they have the technology stack, and then for sales organizations, we work with partners such as VinCorp to really do a full audit of their sales organization, and make sure that that their sales goal, that their sales sales teams and strategy are tied directly to business goals.
Right.
So, Danielle, tell me more about your offerings and what is unique happening in your company, and people are interested to know about it.
Absolutely, I appreciate the question. So we have 3 distinct business lines. The people that we serve are number 1, founders. So what we're doing in 2025 is we're pulling together a founders cohort. The first one being in this March, where we will bring founders together over the course of 4 sessions and work with them to build out their ICP, their messaging, and most importantly, the foundation and process that they can use to be repeatable and scalable as their company grows, so that they will have that foundation in place. The second business line, we work with sales teams, either for a quick ROI workshop, where we will go in and we'll walk the teams through process, and technology that they use. And for the larger organizations, we start with a sales organization audit, where we'll look at people, process, technology, and we work with partners like VinCorp to make sure that we're able to have them look at their sales strategy and make sure that it's aligned with their business goals. Whether that's helping them with training, helping them with technology, whether it be CRM, or something that I've seen a lot in my career is having a process in place, a really well-defined process that is designed to think about how buyers buy, not how sellers sell. Because sales teams, most sales teams hate change.
We all humans, we all of us in some
Humans,
capacity,
yes.
we hate change basically.
Absolutely. But what people instinctively don't like change, but the feedback that I've gotten from some of my meetings was, well, our sales team is doing really well. Well, how much money have you left on the table by not having that process in place, by not thinking about how buyers buy? Buyers have already changed the way that they buy. So there's more risk in not adjusting your sales organization to that new reality.
The only metrics I believe in sales is month over month graph. That's it. If it's not coming, the sales team or even me, I'm not successful if I'm not getting this month over month. And what do you think about, in my career, I've seen that even if you have all the best technologies, process and people ever, but if they're not mingling with each other properly or the culture is not right, so how, like, all of this is like very important, but what do you suggest to companies that how to go about this culture? Because culture is not a one day or a 1 month thing, it's an ongoing thing.
Absolutely. I think that's something that I know that you address in your workshops as well. Making sure that the culture is really focused on being customer centric. We throw these words around, but to be truly customer centric is to be a consultative salesperson, be curious, be a problem solver. And sometimes that's, some of your salespeople are just going to be about benefits and features. There is a place for that, but in the current environment, from what I've been seeing, in B2B, it's just antiquated. To your point, culture is incredibly important, and I think we're happy to sit down with leadership and discuss, hey, these are what you say is important, but when we do an audit of your organization, this is what this is the behavior that you're incentivizing. So you want to incentivize the behavior you want to see.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I've heard this very important quote from Jeff Bezos, and he says, stress never happens like that. Stress always happens when you know of something and you don't take action.
Yes.
So you have to incentivize those behaviors which you want people to follow in your company.
So, you mentioned a very, I think I heard this word for the first time, consultative sales strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, it's less about selling. If you walk into a meeting as a salesperson and your only goal is to close that deal, you've already lost.
Okay.
What you want to do is you want to go in with a lot of information, be someone that your clients can go to for real insights and help guide them toward a solution that works. Now, optimally, that solution will be working with you. Correct. Whether buying your product, buying your services, but even if it's not, walking into a meeting with a client, being curious, having insights to share, and being a problem solver. That's really a win-win situation.
So is it safe to say that sales should not be something which should be very methodical and very hard? It should be more on the soft side, more human side?
It's I really see it as art and science.
Right.
So the art is trying to is the relationship building, and because you really are you're human to human, you're building a relationship, and if you're doing it right, this person wants to continue with this relationship, and the science of it, do your homework, have the data, know what's going on in their market, in their world. What something that I'll often do is I'll be talking to a client, hey, Karam, our clients see these problems. Does this sound like you? And most of the time, if I'm asking the right question, it does. Getting them to that yes pattern. If it's all clicking, great, and if it's not, great. Tell me more. I want to understand what it is, what challenges you're facing, what opportunities are you chasing, and how can we help?
Danielle, tell me one thing. As you have a very diverse and global experience, how are sales practices and processes and people are different in different regions?
I'm so glad that you asked, because there are nuances. I've been advising one of my clients who's in Europe, and talking to them about the nuances in the United States. When I was with London Stock Exchange, I was responsible globally for sales strategy for our business lines, and the sales pitch in the United States is going to be different than the sales
Correct.
pitch in Central Europe, different than the sales pitch in the Nordics. Japan will have its own nuances
What about
versus
Middle East?
Singapore. Yeah, the Middle East has, and the great thing about working with the London Stock Exchange was that we had this massive portfolio of services and products. The terrible thing was that we had this massive portfolio, but it really served us well because the products that worked incredibly well in UAE, in Pakistan, were a completely different product mix from what you would see in Europe. What the buyers and buyers have a different culture, so you really do have to be cognizant of region and culture when you're selling, particularly if you're not from that region or culture, because there are using surnames is much more important in some cultures, whereas here, if I don't know someone and I write "Hi Steve,"
That's
fine.
enough.
Any like funny, scary, or any story which touched you? Anything which you learned through your career, which was based on this cultural differences in sales?
In sales, one of my salespeople in Europe was wanted to have a specialized presentation for one of their clients, and we worked on the presentation. We got it back to them, and he said, I can't show this to them. Why? He said, this is so American.
I got it.
So it was more direct, right?
Yeah.
Yes, much more direct, much more to the point.
So generally, when you are talking to people for sales strategies and founders, and you're advising and you're doing audits, any general comment you would like to, or maybe advice you would like to give to founders, business owners, and leaders, which is a problem generally in most of the companies these days?
Every single sales organization, whether it is a single founder or a global, highly matrixed organization, process. Pay attention to the process. It's something that is iterative and constant and needs to be reviewed and revised often. The process is usually where the breakdowns are.
Can't agree more. I also face this problem in my company as well, and I think Adnan will agree. And from your experiences, you can also share that how important it is to follow the process, make them, and it's not just making them; it's just living by them.
Yeah.
Well, you've hired the right people. You've bought the right technology, but if you don't have that process that connects it all, like glue, you're never going to achieve as much as you could.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, although we want to learn more about you, then we want the audience to know more about us. But still, because you asked this question, I would just answer it that I faced a sort of situation when a process was not followed and it ended up wasting money, right? So, there are some people in the organization, they would want to show efficiency by making you buy stuff. No, we need more powerful internet, we need more storage, we need cloud storage, we need fancy storage, we need all systems connected to individual storage which feeds into a master storage that we can access from everywhere. So they put a proposal and I said, all right, and what's going to be the benefit? So they said the benefit is going to be that we can share all of these things with our clients. We don't have to send on USBs, or we don't have to use third-party softwares, and if somebody's at home, they can work from home, they can download the data. I said, sure, buy it. It was an investment and it was made. And so it was about 10 TVs of space that we bought. Yeah, that's a lot. Guess how much was used in 6 months? 300 MB. The guy's personal photographs.
Oh no!
Because there was no process.
Yeah.
Something was bought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was not used.
Without process, and use it without process as well.
Because the intent was not there
Yeah,
to
yeah.
use. So yes, process is important.
Sure.
But what I've gathered through this conversation, which has been inspiring, is that sales, what I would have thought of sales, because I'm the marketing guy, right? So that's the beauty of this show, that there's a sales guy and there's a marketing guy, and we have these lines that we sort of they converge and then they diverge, and how we find the right balance for any organization's success, right? And the perspective that I got from you in terms of sales is fresh, it's new, and it's sort of
I wish it wasn't fresh and new. I wish that this was how salespeople operated in the world. I'm looking to put more of them out there.
Yes, I think that's the mandate. I think moving forward in this year, people should take a leaf out of your book, that being soft is important. It's not about going really hard, and really made sense when you said about that you have to first give them a value for the time that they're going to give you. And then there is an art of relationship building with the mind on the money. That's the process.
Right. So it sells for itself, and for that, we need all of it: technology, people, culture, processes, branding.
Yes.
But we have to do it consistently, and that we can do only with processes.
Yes.
And once you do it, you become a brand, and sales can relax and take it easy. And the product will sell for itself.
But I think, do you think in many parts of the world, I've experienced that at times when people sell, they make it difficult, or they make it look difficult, that sales is, just
try to make it up, right?
Is that correct? Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And especially, there are so many different types of salespeople, and sometimes you've got a really aggressive lone wolf who's out there. Sometimes he or she is your best salesperson, but they're awful to work with, and they don't respect processes, and they don't play well with others. But they're bringing in the money. And you and I have discussed this. That's not okay.
Yes.
That is a culture killer.
Makes sense. I have a surprise question, and that is going to be the last question of our show.
Okay.
What is gray matter to you?
Gray matter. I think it's your thoughtware. It's how you
Thoughtware?
Yes.
I love this word. Thoughtware. So after hardware, software, VMware, we have thoughtware.
Yes.
And malware.
Yeah.
So please continue. It's your thoughtware.
I think that gray matter is your thoughtware. It's what you uniquely bring to the table in any interaction.
I think we have the episode title, Thoughtware with yours truly. I think
I really appreciate all the time that this has been such a pleasure having this conversation with you. If anyone wants to reach out to me and connect and learn more, I'm on LinkedIn, Danielle Moore Jarnot, or they can just reach out to the website, which is Moore Consulting LLC.
all of these details are in the description, so you guys can click. While you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, you need to check out all Danielle's social media handles and get in touch with her, because she means business and she knows business.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.